Hello, and welcome to the Permission to Breathe podcast, a transformative space dedicated to providing a sanctuary where you can inhale deeply and exhale freely, embracing your grief journey unapologetically. I am your host, Dr. Tammy Isaac, here with you every Monday to offer comfort, guidance, and hope. Together we'll navigate this path, finding moments to pause, reflect, and breathe. Let's begin this journey side by side. Are you grieving and feel like you're struggling alone? You don't have to walk this path by yourself. Book a virtual session with Dr. Tammy Isaac at Breathe Grief Counseling Center. Visit us online at www.breathegriefcounselingcenter.com. Dr. Isaac will help you put your emotions into words. She'll help you reduce the feeling of isolation. She'll help you understand that everyone grieves differently and also help you prevent unhealthy coping mechanisms. Take control of your life with world-class counseling sessions today with Dr. Tammy Isaac. Today's episode addresses how grief impacts both emotional and physical well-being. It highlights the toll grief can take on the body, including stress responses, a weakened immune system, and common physical symptoms such as fatigue and disrupted sleep patterns, emphasizing the importance of self-care. And this episode will offer practical steps for maintaining physical health during grief, such as focusing on sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Let's get started. Hey guys, Dr. Tammy here, and today we are going to be talking about the interplay between grief and physical health. So let's start with understanding grief. So grief is a natural response to loss, right? So we know that loss is not just someone who has died, but also the loss of something that we had a deep connection with. That can be any person, place, or thing that causes us a deep sorrow. So grief will then manifest in various ways. Sometimes through sadness, anger, we can have confusion, and sometimes even there's a relief when we've lost someone or something. I think a lot about how those who are caregivers and have been caregiving for so long that they are overwhelmed, and the anticipation of the person dying has weighed so long and so heavy on them that when the person finally dies, they have a sense of relief, not because they wanted to lose the person, not because they're happy the person died, but it is because now there is this break in this continuous work and stress and heaviness that they've been experiencing by caregiving for that particular person. So it's also important to remember that grief is not confined just to our minds, right? But it also affects our entire being. So that's what we're talking about right today. When we grieve, we're not just mourning with our hearts and our minds, right? Because we tend to think just feelings and emotions and my heart is broken. But when we grieve, we are also mourning with our entire bodies as well. And the connection between our emotions and our physical health is deep and intricate. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, because we just think, oh, there's tears, there's emotions, I feel a certain way, my heart is broken, but we don't realize that there are other things that take place within our bodies as we do have these emotional responses. There comes the physical impact of grief. So research has shown that grief can have significant effects on our physical health. And the stress of grief will trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol, which can weaken the immune system, making us more susceptible to all types of illnesses, in our lives. And this is why people often experience physical symptoms such as like headaches and fatigue and even chest pains, right, during periods of intense grief. And I'll say that I experienced the chest pains. I remember after my mom died, it was about a month or maybe 3 weeks after my mom died that I was having chest pains and I couldn't control. Like, it was just overwhelming. And so I remember going to the ER and I was like, well, I don't know what's happening, but I'm having chest pains. I was very calm. So I'm high functioning. So there can be something wrong you don't really know because I'm still just moving. And I remember them looking at me like, are you sure you're having chest pains? And I'm like, guys, I'm not kidding. I'm having chest pains. I've been having them all day. I just need to be checked out. So after questioning me, they swiftly took me to the back. They began to do all of the exams and monitoring my heart rate. And they literally did that 3 times. They did the test 3 times, and they even called somebody over to help to assist the last time. And they were like, we don't think you're having a heart attack, but there's definitely something going on with your heart and the pace that it's going. And they end up admitting me to the hospital. Blood pressure was through the roof. I've never had blood pressure issues. At that point, I'm very stimulated. They've given me medications, all kinds of concoctions. My oldest sister was there with me, and my sister couldn't figure out. She was like, why is she so wide awake? By this time, I had went around maybe 3, and by this time, it's like 1 in the morning, and I'm like up like a light, babe. I'm not even asleep. And they were just saying like because my blood pressure was high, I was feeling anxious and a bit overwhelmed. So the medication was taking a while to really put me to sleep and bring my blood pressure down. And I spent the night, and the next day I ended up having stress tests. And needless to say, I went through all of that experience like I was having a heart attack, but I wasn't actually having one. It was the effects of my grief that was coming through, and so intense that it what's the word I'm looking for? It changed the rhythm of the beat of my heart and allowed my blood pressure to skyrocket up. And so when we talk about physical symptoms, when we talk about grieving and the triggers that it will cause to happen, they are sometimes, most often, very physical. And it can seem as if you're having a health challenge. And if you have health issues already, what will happen is it will make your conditions or experiences worsen than what they were before. They become worse. And so if you already have chest pains, it'll make the chest pains worser, if that's a word, right? It'll make it worse. And so we have to be very, very careful with our health. And so if we're unhealthy, and we have unhealthy coping mechanisms like overeating and doing all kinds of things like substance abuse and undereating, right? It's not healthy for our bodies because our grief is already triggering our immune system to shut down basically and allow the things that would attack us to make us ill to begin to happen in our lives. And so this is why it's so important that we pay attention to the things that are happening. Other things that can happen is, I disrupt our sleep pattern, which leads to insomnia. I also had insomnia. I would only sleep like 20 minutes and be up, and I just could not sleep. Some people will do excessive sleeping, right? All kinds of things will happen. It just depends on like your body responses and things like that. So while we understand that grief is not just emotional, but it is also physical, since we know that, then we need to start doing self-care and taking care of ourselves and paying attention to what's happening. So in the midst of grief, it is very easy to neglect our physical health because now we're only thinking about our emotional health and the pain that I feel from this deep sorrow that I'm experiencing. So we may feel too exhausted or even too overwhelmed to take care of ourselves. That's the part where we don't want to get out of bed. We don't want to bathe. We don't want to brush our teeth. We don't want to comb our hair. We don't want to get out and do any physical exercise. We don't want to get up and eat anything. We're not doing the basic necessities to take care of ourselves. But it's important to know that self-care is not just luxury either. So a lot of times we have a lot of talk about self-care and the things that people do for self-care, and maybe buying something, getting women getting our hair or nails done, maybe men getting a shave and maybe a massage and a haircut. It's not just those things, right? But it is also taking care of the basic needs, our basic necessities of life, that is so easily overlooked when we are overwhelmed and exhausted by our emotions. Because our emotions, baby, can wear us down. They are so heavy that you don't want to get out of bed. You don't even have the energy to even say hello or speak to somebody or even pick up a phone. Ask me how I know. I've been through that, where you can see somebody calling who loves you, but I don't have the energy to even answer the phone or even say hello. I don't even have the energy just to listen to somebody else's voice. That's how tough grief can be and overwhelming, that we end up not taking care of our physical selves. And so it's important that we pay attention to really caring for ourselves. And as we talk about caring for our physical health, um, when we do take time to provide self-care and deal with our physical health, it actually helps to manage our grief better. I know it sounds crazy, but it literally does, because on one end of the spectrum, you're like, I'm too exhausted to even get up and shower, right? But if I get up and shower, it literally helps me feel better. Right? I'm too exhausted to be around people and put on a face and stuff. But when I'm around my loved ones and those who create sacred space for me, they literally make me feel better. And so it's about conquering the ability to get up and shower, or to answer that phone when somebody calls, And usually these types of people who we love and that are important to us and who can create these spaces for us are those who we hope and should know how to create some space where they don't always have to be saying something or active, but just being present, and allowing the griever to know that they're there, right? So when our bodies are strong and our minds and spirits are better equipped to handle the emotional uh, loss that we're going through, it helps us to be able to carry the weight of our emotions just a little bit better. And so when we talk about self-care, some of the things I want to highlight is, of course, we're talking about our physical condition, right? So I need to be aware. So being aware and paying attention, becoming curious and starting to explore what I'm feeling. Why is this happening to my body? This looks different, right? You want to slow down and pay attention. These are tools of self-care. When I'm paying attention to what's happening to me, when I'm aware, when I take the time to slow down and check out what's happening, becoming curious and exploring issues within my body, when I make the choice to pay attention, these are self-care to my body. When I make my physical health a priority, this is self-care. When I am in community, this is self-care, because I'm allowing other people to take part in what I'm experiencing and allowing them to help me be able to see and become aware of things that are happening with me. Because sometimes I'm not able to see it. But if I'm in community provides support for me and they help me become aware and pay attention of the things that I'm going through. They help me become curious and I can explore what's happening, and then I can make my physical health a priority just as much as my emotional health, as the emotional health of what I'm going through. And then eventually I get to the place where I'm able to accept what I'm going through, accept what's happening in my body. And then self-care can be more of pleasure than it is to, or than it is a struggle and a work to do so that I can get back to a healthy state. But we want to be able to get to a place where self-care is more about maintenance. Today's episode is sponsored by Let the Church Grieve by Dr. Tammy Isaac, a compelling book that explores the often overlooked subject of grief within spiritual communities. Dr. Isaac combines personal antidotes with theological insights, providing a compassionate framework for understanding and addressing grief collectively. This book emphasizes the need for spiritual leaders to create safe spaces for mourning and guides congregations through the grieving process with faith and empathy. It's a must read for anyone looking to support those experiencing grief within their spiritual communities. Grab your copy of Let the Church Grieve at www.drtammyisaac.com today and begin the journey towards healing and growth. Now back to our show. So let's talk about some practical steps for our physical health as we are grieving. Just a few we'll talk about. So prioritizing sleep. So I will say that sleep can be very hard sometimes if you are experiencing insomnia like I did. But sleep is essential for our health, whether I'm grieving or not. It's important that my body gets sleep for both emotional and physical health, because even if I'm not grieving and I haven't gotten enough sleep, I can't focus. I can't do what I need to do, my responsibilities. I can't work. I can't take care of myself, because the body will then start to shut down. So we have to learn to establish a routine that will help us wind down at night or whenever our time of rest is. And we have to think about some of the things that may help us do that, which sometimes for some people it could be reading, maybe saying a prayer, maybe taking a warm bath. One of the things I do now is I have some lavender oil. So after I clean my face, I usually put a oil on my face. Sometimes it's some vitamin C, but now I have a lavender oil when I feel like I'm overstimulated and I don't feel like my body's winding down. I will take my lavender oil and put it on my face after I finish cleaning it to help me relax. And other things that we can do is to make sure that we avoid stimulants like coffee, or caffeine, if your body can't handle that at night, right? So we want to get rid of our caffeine. And the biggest thing is the screen time. Looking on our screen. When I say screen, I mean our phones, right? Eliminating that, maybe turning off the TV, maybe darkening the room, whatever that atmosphere it is to get you comfortable, to wind down. You want to set a routine that will help you do that. But I was going to say earlier too, is that with insomnia, it's kind of hard. And what I did during my time of insomnia, I started taking melatonin, which didn't really help because I was heightened by my grief. My grief was triggering the insomnia because I've never had insomnia before. And so I end up having to get some sleeping medication from my doctor that I took a couple of times. But then after that, I was okay. I was able to sleep. But sometimes you do have to have something, and sometimes you don't. But you need to listen to your body and know what your physical health is requiring at that time and provide it with that so that you can get the rest and sleep that you need. The other thing is to eat nutrition-rich food. So it's very known that as people go through grief, you're going to either overeat or undereat, or you can do both. So I know me and my oldest sister, we were together during a time of my mom's passing, and we were getting things together, and we would go the whole day without even eating, not even an inkling of feeling hungry or anything. We just did not want to eat at all. And it was crazy. My brother-in-law was like, y'all got to eat something. And we just wouldn't eat. And then there was a time where I think after the funeral that something changed, and all I wanted to do was eat. And I would just eat all kinds of junk. So because grief can disrupt our appetite, it's important that we begin to nourish our bodies when we are able to eat is with nutrition rich foods. And so we got to focus on eating balanced meals, something more healthy than just fast food. Get some fruits and vegetables. I know we hear that we need to eat better often, but this really helps as we're going through that grieving process to help with our physical health. And so, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, things like that. You want to stay hydrated. You want to avoid the comfort food time, because that'll get you every time. You feel so comfortable with that piece of cake and them cookies or whatever it is, that kind of warms your heart. And it does that only for a temporary relief. It doesn't stay long. And then there you are stuffing your face again with more food that just keeps affecting our body, making us gain weight. Maybe it's making us feel sluggish and overwhelmed more than what we're already experiencing on top of the grief. And so it's important that we pay attention to the food that we do put in our mouths. Here's another thing: seek medical advice. So if you notice persistent physical symptoms in your body, whether it's chronic pain, digestive issues, or some type of severe fatigue, don't hesitate to consult with a healthcare. One of the things that I did was because I felt like there was something different about me. I felt like there were things happening. So I did go to the doctor prior to actually going to the hospital, and I was going through the channels of insurance and all of that and couldn't get into the right doctor they were sending me to. It was so much happening, but I was on that path of like going to the doctor to say, hey, I feel different. I'm not really sure. I just didn't make it to the right specialist in time before my symptoms got worse and I started having chest pain. So that's why I ended up going to the ER. But part of what I was saying earlier about self-care is really being curious and exploring like what's happening to me. It's about being aware and paying attention to our bodies. And a lot of times we don't do that even in our natural everyday life without grief. We just keep going on. And because I work in the health field, like I visit patients all the time who are saying, oh, this issue been going on 3 months. And I'm like, oh my God, why are you just now here? Oh, I just thought it was nothing, but now we have to cut your foot off. Right. So let's pay attention. Don't be so busy that we're not paying attention to what's happening inside of us, because it's important so that we can rule out any underlying medical conditions so that we can address like the grief, because grief in the physical makes us feel like that there could be an underlying medical issue. But if we can go ahead and rule that out quickly, then we can focus on your grief and how that may be impacting your health, and then get you on the pathway to healing and really focusing on what's important at that moment. Another thing is to connect with others. I talked about community. I believe being in community is a part of self-care. So when we have social support, it is so beneficial during our times of grief. It's crucial. I would say it's crucial to be in community and to be connected to other people as you're going through grief, because sometimes just talking to someone, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a counselor, it can help alleviate a lot of our physical and emotional burden that we get from grief, just to relieve some of the weight of what we're going through. Just to say things out loud really releases a lot of pressure off of us. So don't be afraid to reach out and let others support you, right? Or even ask for that support. Don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed to ask. Stay in community, stay connected to people, and make sure these are people that you trust. Make sure that these people who love you, and these are people who are going to create safe environments for you. Here's the other thing. Stay active, right? So physical activity can be a powerful, powerful tool in managing our grief. I will say that the morning my mom died, I was actually with my trainer. I was on the track running. I used to be a runner, if I haven't said that before. And that was after that, I stopped running. I haven't ran since, and I'm actually getting ready to start back running. Hopefully by the time y'all listen to this, I will have already started, but I'm actually planning to start back running because running for me was very, very life-changing for me. It really helped with peace of mind and clarity. But I was saying all that because I actually stopped running, and I didn't run anymore after that. And having that physical activity, that exercise, that would have been helpful in the process of my grieving, because exercise releases endorphins, which can boost our mood and really help alleviate some of the physical symptoms that we get from grief. It's just that balancing to really just push yourself to be able to do something that's going to help your body relieve that grief, because at the same time your emotions are battling with the fact, I don't feel like doing anything, I'm too sad to even get up, but I know physically I need to get up because it's literally going to make me feel a lot better, both physically and emotionally, right? And this doesn't mean you need to start some type of intense workout. Like, we don't need you to be doing T25 or Shanti something, or heading up CrossFit or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever. But it's just maybe just movement, just walking outside. I mean, you can do a treadmill, but I also think that the vitamin D from the sun helps as well. So maybe if you just walk up and down your street, to the street corner and back, or maybe there's a park or a trail near your house. Or if you have a dog, maybe you can take your dog outside to walk in your lawn or something like that. But some type of gentle activity, stretching could also help and be incredibly beneficial to your life as you're going through your grief. Here's this other thing, the interconnectedness of our body, mind, and spirit. So as someone who has dedicated her life to spiritual care and grief counseling, I've seen firsthand how interconnected our body, mind, and our spirits are. And if you don't know, grief is a holistic experience. And because grief is holistic, the healing of it must be approached in a holistic way, right? And a lot of times, well, this is a reason why we have chaplains in the hospital. I'm a chaplain in the hospital, and it's important. A lot of people don't realize, are you employed by the hospital? Yes, I'm employed by the hospital. Why? Because they realize that people's health and what they're experiencing and going through is not just an emotional or mental thing or physical, but it is a spiritual thing. And a lot of people their health and how they feel and getting better, their hopes and dreams and prayers are connected to their religious beliefs. And so this is why it's important to know that the body, mind, and spirit are connected even as we go through our grief experience. And so because grief is holistic, we need to approach the healing of grief in a holistic way. So, which means we must attend to our physical health just as we attend to our emotional and our spiritual needs. So the three of them need our attention. I can't just focus on my physical health and not attend to my emotions, right? And a lot of times as we experience grief through our emotions, what happens is our emotions will take the front seat or center stage or become the starring role, because grief starts with this emotional attachment that you have to a person, place, or thing, and it cuts us pretty deep, which then triggers the cortisol within our bodies and begins to weaken our immune system, which leads to physical illness and ailments, right? Which then will affect our spiritual mindset. So when we think about soul, spirit, and body, or body, mind, and spirit, we talk about the psychological, which is the self-conscious. We talk about the spiritual, which is the God consciousness, and the physiological, which is the world consciousness. So when we care for our bodies, we create a foundation that will support our entire being, which is the body, soul, spirit, body, mind, spirit, right? So that it supports our entire being as we navigate the complexities of grief, because grief is complex, right? Even just listening to this and how this interconnectedness of our grief and our health and what we're going through is complex. And you're like, what? I thought it was just my heart and my emotions. No, it is your physical being as well. It is also dealing with our spiritual selves, right? Because sometimes when we go through life struggles and situations that cause us to grieve, sometimes it will either draw us closer to God or farther away from God. And we begin to question God. We begin to question, am I in the will of God? Did I do something wrong? Does God really love me? Why would this happen, right? And so you need to be able to approach your healing from that holistic place where I'm balancing dealing with my spirit, dealing with my mind, dealing with my body all together, because it's complex and grief is holistic. And if we're going to heal through our grief, then we have to approach it as a whole. So it's important to know that. So as we close out today's podcast, I just want you guys to remember that grief is a journey. It's complex. It's a complex journey. It is like, when I even say that phrase, you know what comes to mind? It's like a road pathway, like a fork. You know how like a fork in the road, but this fork in the road has multiple forks. And you're like, which way do I go? Do I go left? Do I go right? Or even when I'm thinking about, I just watched a couple of weeks ago, what is that old movie? Oh my goodness, I can see it in my head. The Follow the Yellow Brick Road, Dorothy, right? The Wizard of Oz. And they tell her to follow the yellow brick road, but there's so many yellow brick roads. Which one do we choose, right? It's so complex. Like, which way do I go on this journey? And I'm telling you that it's complex and we have to be able to juggle all of the streams. But I want you to know that it's okay to take one step at a time. If you can only take one at a time, then do that, right? You don't want to get overwhelmed in the healing process that you never come through any of what you're experiencing. The important thing is to notice, be aware, start being curious about why I feel the way that I feel, what's happening in my body. Start to pay attention to the way that you walk, the way that your feet are touching the ground, the way that your heart is beating. Why do my breaths start to become inconsistent when I'm at this particular place, right? Just start being curious. Take one step at a time. And, there will be days when caring for your physical health will seem impossible. And that's okay too. That's okay too. The only thing that you need to know is that it is important that you remain to be gentle. I use the word be graceful to yourself. I often tell my families and patients to show grace to one another, but most importantly to yourself. And you acknowledge this is hard. This is a hard place. I feel overwhelmed. I feel miserable. This sucks, right? Be honest with yourself. And so this is going to take time for me to move through and process. So be gentle with yourself. And remember that healing is a process. We don't just heal overnight. It takes a process. Even when we go to the doctor to deal with, our illnesses, sometimes, hey, they give you antibiotics. You need to take this antibiotics for 7 days. It's a process, right? I need you to take this pill at this time every day and then take this next pill at 4 hours afterward. It's a process. And then I need you to come back in 2 weeks and see me, right? Healing is a process. Healing of your grief is a process. So pay attention to your physical health. And remember that you're not only caring for your body, but you're also honoring the entirety of you and your grief journey, right? And I want to end by telling you to breathe. B, be kind to yourself. R, respect your body. E, engage with others. A, allow emotions to ebb and flow. T, take life 1 minute at a time. H, honor your loved one. And E, examine your expectations. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Permission to Breathe podcast. I hope today created space for you to breathe and find peace on your journey. I invite you to join me again next Monday for another episode as we continue to navigate this path together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share the podcast. Until next time, take care and keep breathing unapologetically.